UAE has welcomed the ICJ dismissal of Sudan's genocide case against the country. The court found it lacked jurisdiction since the UAE has a caveat to the part of the treaty that gives the UN court authority. UAE officials said the nation bears no responsibility for the conflict and called for the international community to focus on ending the war.
Today's decision represents a resounding rejection of the Sudanese armed forces' attempt to instrumentalize the court for its misinformation campaign and to distract from its own responsibility. The facts speak for themselves. The UAE bears no responsibility for the conflict in Sudan. On the contrary, the atrocities committed by the warring parties are well documented. The international community must focus urgently on ending this devastating war and supporting the Sudanese people. And it must demand humanitarian aid reaches all those in need. The Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces must stop fighting, must stop weaponizing aid, and must endorse civilian leadership independent from military control as the only foundation for sustainable peace.
We are looking for justice. So justice will never stop in one place. We go further and we will always be looking for our justice. So what's happening today, this is not the end of the game. We're going further.
Well, Pascal Cuttat is the Senior Advisor on Human Security at SAHAN, a research organization focusing on security, politics and conflict. He's joining us now live from Nairobi to discuss this issue further. Pascal, thank you for joining us on the program. Now, Port Sudan had remained untouched by ground or air attacks until this week. Why now, and why do these RSF attacks signal?
We have seen fundamental changes in the conflict over the last few weeks and months. The Sudanese armed forces had almost total air supremacy, used Air Force heavily, and that allowed them to take Khartoum, which they almost entirely control today, and other areas. They made progress. RSF retreated into their homeland and are now using, and that's new, and it's a really important change. They're now using drones in order to reach areas which they cannot reach from the ground, including such an important symbolic place as Port Sudan. Drone attacks by the RSF have happened in various places over the last weeks and days. In Dongola, an electric installation, in Meroe, a dam, and 2 days ago in Kassala. This is therefore not the first time, but it indicates a very important shift. Port Sudan, attack on the airport, attack on the airbase at the airport and on the fuel storage. That, of course, makes headlines and makes an impact internationally.
Well, the attacks in Port Sudan and other parts of the east appear to target airports and fuel depots in key cities. Why is this?
It is a choice, it appears to be a choice by the RSF to change the dynamics of the conflict. We have seen now the country almost entirely divided into two, with the hand-to-hand fighting which happened particularly in Khartoum and Jazeera states, much less of importance right now. Therefore, a different approach to reach the SAF targets, I mean RSF targets in SAF areas, and the shift to an area RSF was not so heavily engaged in, which is combat waged by air.
And on Monday, though, the ICJ, Pascal, threw out Sudan's case of alleged genocide filed against the United Arab Emirates. What are the likely implications of this verdict, considering that atrocities continue to be committed?
I think the most important thing is what you just said. Atrocities continue to be committed. The International Court of Justice threw out the case based on finding that it is not competent to rule and therefore will not rule. The onus is clearly on the main two fighting forces in Sudan, and both of them either use humanitarian aid, to prevent humanitarian aid in order to harm civilians on each other's areas. Both of them disregard the fundamental basic rights of non-combatants, of the civilian population, and the onus is on them and, of course, on their supporters to stop with that and to start applying some kind of basic rule of law in this country.